Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us in this immigration update with Amir Ismail and Associates. My name is Amir Ismail, and I'm right now live with you from Toronto, Canada. I'm an authorized citizenship and immigration advisor based out of Toronto, who has been assisting clients in their immigration matters since 1991. I'm also a member in good standing with the Immigration Consultants of Canada, Regulatory Council, and Canadian Association of Professional Immigration Consultants. So we have these information sessions every Saturday, 11 a.m. EST, and we thank you for you to join us regularly, and those who are new are very welcome. We'll be joined with our other team members today, and today we are going to be talking about new updates, of course, and a very recent news about restrictions, further restrictions that Canadian government has introduced for international travels out of the concern of the new variant of COVID-19 spreading in Canada. So we'll talk about that. We will also talk about the updates happening in Canadian immigration in terms of provincial nominations. So we know that there were nominations by provinces like Saskatchewan, Prince Edward Island, BC, British Columbia, and there was another new program introduced by Alberta for international students. That's international graduates outside Canada. So that's an interesting program, and a lot of people might be interested in that program. So stay tuned for those. My colleagues, Guli from Ottawa, would be talking about a very interesting topic. And I like that topic a lot because that is related to the province we are based in, Ontario. That is the Ontario's entrepreneur stream. And that's a good stream for not only business owners, but also the senior managers, people who are senior managers in large organizations. They're heading operations of a department or a company. They might qualify if they have the requirements, and Guli is going to talk about that. Another topic that I really like, and that is related to international students. A lot of international students get in touch with us for assistance in admissions in Canadian universities and colleges. And they also talk about or ask questions about the study permit procedures. So my colleague Beba is going to talk about the study permit procedures, and she is also going to talk about the new measures that have been taken for international students, especially those who have graduated, were issued postgraduate work permits, and their postgraduate work permits were expiring or had expired, or some of them may have left Canada and they couldn't find a job and they were concerned. So Canadian government made some changes. So those international students who are concerned or were concerned may be interested in finding more about it. So stay tuned about that as well. So let's talk about the updates. But before that, let me invite my colleagues to this transmission. I'm adding Guli from the capital city, Ottawa.
Hi, everyone. Nice seeing you again.
Thank you for joining us, Guli. So we'll be, of course, benefiting from your presentation shortly. Also joining us from Toronto, my city, Beba.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, so both Guli and Beba are formally trained in immigration laws and procedures, and they're very helpful in presenting interesting topics. And we'll be joined by our Asia Regional Director, Mr. Khwaja Noman, shortly. I'm going to add him. He is a bit late today, but let's see if he can hear us. Yeah, I think he's not available at the moment, but we are here, of course, and Khwaja Saab is going to join us shortly. So let's talk about the recent updates that we have in terms of the travel restrictions. So tougher travel restrictions have been introduced by the Canadian government, and it was yesterday when the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that first of all they discussed the matter with the Canadian Airlines, and they decided that they'll be let me just adjust the mic of Kojanuman. There you go. Okay, so we heard him saying that they have dealt with the airlines, the major airlines in Canada, WestJet and Air Canada, and they decided that these airlines are going to halt their flight operations to what we call the sun destinations. So Canadians, of course, they are fond of going to southern countries, south of the border, for example, Caribbeans countries and Mexico. And in order to discourage them from going or taking a break, especially in spring, it is very important. It was very important for the Canadian government to introduce those tougher restrictions and to make it harder for Canadians to think about taking a break, because this is not the time. This literally is not the time to travel. And in order to do so, they discussed the matter with the airlines. And although the airline industry is suffering from a lot of huge losses, they agreed. They said, okay, we're going to halt the operation so that Canadians may not be able to travel to the sun destinations. And we can, of course, if we can hold ourselves back, we can enjoy life and these holidays sometimes in future soon. So that is one important thing, to restrict the travel of Canadians. But the other restriction that was introduced yesterday, in addition to the restriction of or the requirement of having a negative COVID-19 test to board a flight to Canada, Canadian government introduced one more restriction, or you could say one more measure, where these travelers, after having presented negative COVID-19 test, when they arrive in Canada, they would be tested at the airport too. So they will be tested at the airport, and if their result is negative, they'll be allowed to go. But regardless of that, when they are tested, they will not be allowed to enter the country. They would be required to check in a hotel, and all the expenses are needed to be borne by the traveler, to be in the vicinity of $2,000 or more. So it is a sort of a discouragement for the international travelers who want to enter Canada for non-essential reasons. So they need to understand that there are a lot of hassle involved. First of all, they need to present a negative COVID-19 test to board the flight. When they come to Canada, they're not allowed to enter the country. They're required to go for a test and hold back in a hotel for 3 days, where they would be spending money out of their own pocket. And if the test comes out negative, they would be allowed to enter the country, but they would still be required to quarantine for 14 days, and they will be monitored. But if the test turns out to be negative or positive, positive, the test result comes out positive, they will be sent to a government-administered quarantine center and only allowed to go somewhere else once their subsequent tests are found negative. But they would still be then, after that, are required to go for a 14 days quarantine. So these measures, of course, they've been introduced because we saw a new variant coming out of the UK, Brazil, and South Africa. And this is a very most crucial time, I guess, in this second wave. And if we could go through this vaccination that is going on in Canada in time, and if we could restrict our movements, I think we'll be able to come through as winners against this catastrophe. So that was about the recent announcement that was given by the Canadian government. We will be taking your questions shortly. I can see that there are several questions coming in, so we will do that. But I'll just quickly go through the updates that we had between the time we spoke last time and now. And we saw that there was a third express entry draw that happened on 20th of January, where Canada invited 374 express entry candidates with CRS cutoff of 741. Now, these were all provincial nominee candidates, and we understand that provincial nominee candidates can get 600 extra points. What does that mean? It means that if the CRS cutoff was 741, and if someone had 141 CRS points, and if they had a provincial nomination, they were able to get through. They were issued the invitation to apply for permanent residence. So these were all PNP candidates. And if you have low CRS score, say if you have 300, and if you're getting 600 extra CRS points because of nomination, you can imagine that you can get selected because the CRS score for this draw was 741. So you'll have 900, right? That was the good news for express entry candidates. But we also saw that there have been 3 draws as yet in 2021. And the next week seems to be very crucial for all program draws. So I can predict that there might be a draw happening next week. But we'll have to see. We need to see if Canada needs to, of course, maintain the course of inviting people and achieve the target of 401,000 immigrants in the year 2021. There would be frequent draws and larger draws. And we've already seen that they are inviting at least 5,000 people in each draw. They're breaking them up between Canada Experience Class and provincial nominee program candidates. Another update was Saskatchewan. 502 immigration candidates were invited, and Saskatchewan has already invited 900 candidates this month, right? So imagine, I mean, I have never seen this kind of aggressive recruitments by provinces ever. This is happening at a lightning speed, and provinces are participating so aggressively. I mean, I've never seen it like that. We always used to depend on the federal skilled worker program, but it seems that provincial nominee programs, it is the way to go. And it makes sense because provinces are in a better position to identify candidates who could be useful in their labor market. So that is why it is very, very important. The smallest province in Canada, the Eastern Province, the Prince Edward Island, also invited 211 immigration candidates under the express entry and labor market and business impact candidates. So these are 3 streams. 2 of them, express entry and labor market, is for skilled workers, and then business impact stream is for business immigrants or senior managers who are interested in establishing the business. So this small province is also playing big. It played big in the year, in last year, and this year also seems to be the same case. BC also had a draw. It happened recently on the 26th of January. They invited 81 tech workers in their new PNP draw, and they also had an earlier draw as well. So BC has been very active as well. Manitoba also invited applicants on 28th of January, 2 days ago. 218 candidates were invited in skilled worker, international education, and skilled worker overseas streams. And this month, Manitoba also invited 490 candidates. So you can imagine this is a province adjacent to Ontario, and they are also very, very active in invitations. Alberta, as I said, has introduced this new immigration pathway for international graduates. So if you're an international graduate, you have minimum of 6 months of full-time work experience in the management or ownership of a business, or you have work experience within business incubator, you have a business plan, you have good language skills, you can show a minimum of 34% ownership of their business in Alberta or Calgary and Edmonton. I mean, this is a very, very good opportunity for international graduates who wish to establish their businesses or startups in Alberta. So do a bit of research about it. It might be useful for you. Postgraduate work permit holders can now submit application for new open work permit, and Beba is going to talk about that. So I'm not going to go deeper into it, but she'll be able to advise you about it. And on the front of the spousal sponsorship application, we have seen that there has been some efficiency and spousal sponsorship applications are being processed very, very quickly these days. So the commitment seems to be there. And we hope that all these spousal sponsorship applicants who have been waiting for a while, they will be able to reunite with their spouses. So with that, we'll take a short break. And when we come back, we will then benefit from Beba's presentation on study permit. And then it will be followed by Guli presentation on Ontario. So just take a small break, and when we come back, we'll join you together. Okay, welcome back. As I advised, we'll be talking about study permit applications, international students who are interested in coming to Canada and study here. There are paths available for permanent residence for international students, and not only fresh graduates or younger applicants consider Canada as their choice destination for study. There are mature students as well who consider Canada frequently. So the floor is with you, Beba. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you. So I'm going to be talking about student permit applications today. So let's start with that. What is a study permit? It's a document that IRCC issues to allow foreign nationals to study in Canada in designated learning institution. Study permit is not a visa, and it doesn't guarantee you entry in Canada. So if you're not from visa exempt country, or if you are from visa exempt country, you're still gonna need a TRV or ETA. So most of the nationals that are foreign nationals need study permit in Canada. However, there are a couple exceptions. You don't need a study permit if you're studying for 6 months or less, but there's a little note on this actually. Due to COVID-19, you're actually required now to obtain a permit even if you're studying for a short course, which is 6 months or less. And you also have to attend a DLI that has a COVID-19 readiness plan approved by the province. Otherwise, if you don't meet these two requirements, you won't be able to travel to Canada. So the next is the family or staff of foreign representatives don't need a study permit. Members of armed forces, registered Indians, or minor children. So good reasons to get a study permit. There's 2 good reasons to get a study permit even if you don't need one. So the first one is if you want to continue studies, then you're going to need one. So it's good to...
Sorry to interrupt you. I had a question, Beba.
Yes.
I mean, this is a very important information because I understand that people don't need a study permit if they are studying for 6 months or less. But due to COVID-19, they are required to. So that's important information, right?
Yes, they just changed it recently because they want to limit the spread of the virus.
Perfect. Okay.
Yes.
Let's go on to the next slide then. What do we need to do for applying for study permit?
So yeah, in general, there are 3 ways to apply. You can apply outside of Canada, at port of entry, or from inside of Canada. But most of the applications should be made or are made overseas, which is outside of Canada. And I'm going to give you steps to guide you about the application process. So the step 1 is you have to gather your documents. You're going to need proof that you're accepted in school in Canada. Otherwise, you cannot you cannot make an application if you're not accepted. You're going to need proof of your identity as a valid passport. You're going to need a proof of financial support. So you have to show that you're able to pay for your course, and you're also able to pay for your stay in Canada for yourself, and also if there is a family member coming with you. So the next step is to fill out the applicable forms that are being found on IRCC website. And the step 3 would be pay the fees, which includes study permit fee and biometric fee. And there's also a note on this one that due to COVID-19, biometrics are temporarily not required. And also make sure before you pay any fees, you have to be eligible to apply, because fees are not refundable regardless what the result is and what's the decision the IRCC makes. And the final step is, of course, to submit your application. It can be done online or it can be done on paper base.
Okay, next slide, I guess.
Yeah, the next slide, I guess. So depending where you live, your study permit can be processed faster than regular application. So this is called Student Direct Stream. So under this program, IRCC tries to process applications within 20 calendar days. So to be eligible for this program, you have to be a legal resident and you have to be living in one of the countries, which are China, India, Morocco, Pakistan, Philippines, Senegal, and Vietnam. And of course, then you have to prove that you can pay for your tuition. You have to have acceptance letter. You have to have proof of funds for yourself to support yourself. You have to have police medical certificates, if applicable, and your language test. And also IRCC may ask you additional documents, which can make the process a little bit longer.
Right.
So, yeah. So the next topic is the work for students. If you're a student, you may be willing to work in Canada while you're studying, and you're allowed to do so unless your permit specifically restricts you from doing it. But if it doesn't, you're eligible to work as long as you're enrolled in full-time post-secondary program. And you can only start working after you start studying. You cannot start working and studying afterwards. So there's 2 options for you. You can be working without permit on campus. It means that you work on a building that's on your school campus, and your employer is going to be your school. And there's no limit hour-wise, so you can work as many hours as you wish. And the second option is to work off campus, but this option is a little bit limited. It limits you to 20 hours a week during your academic course, and you can be working full-time during your school breaks, like winter, summer break. So and after you complete your studies, like your graduate, you may want to stay in Canada and work. So, and there are 2 ways to do it. The first one is to apply for further studies, which is going to give you a new study permit and you can continue working as well. Or you can apply for postgraduate work permit if you're not planning to study. So the postgraduate work permit that gives international students, graduates, opportunity to look and then secure employment across Canada, and they can work for any employer of their choice. So in all the years they spend on accumulating their work experience can be used towards future immigration applications. So there's, of course, some criteria. Not every DLI is eligible for this permit, so you have to check the list. The postgraduate work permit is exempt from a positive LMIA, so you don't need the LMIA to start working, and you have to apply within 180 days after you graduate. And again, you have to be post-secondary program for a minimum of 8 months. And you must apply, as I mentioned, 180 days after completing your studies. And once your postgraduate work permit expires, normally you cannot extend it. You would have to apply to obtain LMIA. But Government of Canada just introduced this new public policy that allows international students who are in Canada on postgraduate work permit, and the work permit is about to expire. It allows to apply for a new one-time open work permit, which is valid up to 18 months. And again, you have to meet the criteria. You have to have a postgraduate work permit that expires. You have to be in Canada. You have to have a valid passport, and you have to have a valid status. So then I wanted to touch a little bit on COVID-19 measures. So as I mentioned earlier, that biometrics are not required temporarily, and your DLI has to have a COVID-19 readiness plan. Otherwise, you won't be able to travel to Canada, and you may be denied entry if you're already at the port of entry. And as a student, if you travel here, you won't be considered essential, and you may be turned back if your study program was canceled. You just cannot study. And of course, 14-day isolation requirement is mandatory, and COVID-19 testing is required now prior boarding a plane. So the test has to be negative, of course. And also that Government of Canada recognized that since a lot of programs may be moved online, so the time spent of those studying online also is going to be counted towards your postgraduate work permit. So in the next step, if you decide that you want to stay in Canada permanently, the nice way to apply, if you, let's say, studied and worked here, is Canadian Experience class. So which is a part of Express Entry. So you have to meet the general requirements, which is interesting that education is not required. And you have to meet language requirement, which is depending on your NOC code. When you work, it's just CLB 7 or NOC 0 or A, or CLB 5 for NOC B. You have to have 1 year work experience in Canada in past 3 years in order to qualify. Arranged employment is not required, and the settlement funds are not required as well. And just some additional notes that the refugee claimants are not eligible for this class, for this program, and you're not eligible if you were working in Canada without any authorization to work.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so you already talked about these notes. Thank you very much, Weber, for this presentation. So international students who are interested in coming to Canada, these were some updates and general guidelines for you. But if you need further information on studying in Canada, we would be happy to assist you. You have our contact information. I'm just going to acknowledge very quickly for people who are joining us online today, and then we'll move on to Guli's presentation, which is a very interesting one because it is for the Ontario's entrepreneur program for business owners and the senior managers who are working in companies in senior positions. There are people joining us from Facebook. Mahbub has joined us as usual. Naveed is also with us. Ismail Azam is again joining us from Texas. Thank you for acknowledging our work and appreciation. Farhan is also with us today. Mudassir is joining us from LinkedIn. He's from Virginia, USA. Thank you. Waqas is sending his best wishes from Pakistan. Engineer Karim Virani, thank you for joining us again, Virani Saab. I think we'll have your selection in the next draw. So I wish you best of luck with that. Okay, we'll be taking some questions later on. Let's move on to Guli's presentation on Ontario's entrepreneur program. It's a presentation not to be missed, and floor is yours, Guli.
Hi, everyone again. So today I'll be talking about the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program under the Entrepreneur Stream, which is basically the business stream. And I know from our previous presentations on Saturdays, there has been some questions and interest on the business side of things for immigration to Canada. So I think this will be an interesting topic to cover. So what is the Entrepreneur Stream of Ontario? This stream is for businessmen from outside of Canada with an interest to start a new business or to purchase an already running or an already existing business in Ontario. It will allow the businessman or the entrepreneur and up to one foreign national business partner the opportunity to be nominated for a permanent residence once you have established that business or the business is running as per the requirements in Ontario. The application process for the entrepreneur stream is a two-stage process, and I will cover them right now. So what is stage one? In order to start the application process and to be qualified, you will need to register an expression of interest by email. And if you are invited, then you are invited to submit an online application. You and your business partner, if you have one, it's not necessary, but if you do have one, you will need to attend a mandatory in-person interview at one of the offices in Toronto to basically explain your purpose of the business, which I will also touch upon right now. And if the stage one of this application process is successful, you will need to sign a performance agreement, which I'll also explain going forward. And stage two. So once you kind of show your interest and you go forward and you succeed in stage one, Ontario will issue a temporary work permit and a support letter so that you can apply to Immigration Canada for a temporary work permit. The part two of stage two is that you will need to establish your business and you will have 20 months to implement your business plan and to submit a final report of your business. And if your business meets all the requirements, then Ontario will ask you for a documentation to make sure that you're eligible for a nomination for a permanent residence. It's sort of like a certification that they will issue for you so that you can apply for the nomination program. What are the essential requirements in order to apply for this stream, for the business stream? So the first and foremost is that you must have a business experience. You must have at least 24 months of full-time business experience in the last 60 months, which is pretty good because if you're worried a little bit about your age and you have a business experience, you've been a business owner or a senior manager in the business management side of things, this might be a perfect opportunity or perfect program that you can apply to. As a business owner, you must have had an active role in the business and owned at least 1/3 of the business. And as a senior manager, if you were not a CEO or if this was not your business, personal business, but you are working as a senior manager, then you must have had a senior decision-making responsibilities in the business. What are the following requirements? So the second requirement is your net worth. If the proposed business that you're offering to Ontario will be located within the Greater Toronto Area, which is the City of Toronto, Durham area, Halton, York, and Peel regions, you must have a minimum net worth of 800,000 Canadian dollars. And if you are outside of the Greater Toronto Area, anywhere else between Ontario, you must have a minimum net worth of 400,000 Canadian dollars. Additionally, if your proposed business is in the information communications technology or digital communications sector, then regardless of wherever you are, if you're within Greater Toronto or you're outside, you must have a minimum net worth of 400,000 Canadian dollars in order to meet the requirements. What is the third requirement? The third requirement is your personal investment funds and the minimum equity that you need to hold. So if your proposed business is within the Greater Toronto Area again, your minimum personal investment should be 600,000 Canadian dollars, and you must have control of at least 1/3 of the equity in the business. And if you're outside of the Greater Toronto Area, then your minimum personal investment is much lower. It's $200,000, but the control of the equity is still 1/3 of the business. And again, if your proposed business is in the IT and digital communications sector, then regardless of wherever you are, if you're in Toronto or outside of Toronto, then you must make a minimum personal investment of $200,000, but the control should still be 1/3 of the equity in business. Let's go to the other requirements, which are essential in order to meet this stream. The fourth one is you must be actively involved in the business, in the decision-making on the ongoing basis, in the management of the business. So you must play a very active role. You can't just open one and just leave it for somebody else to run. You'll have to run with it. The fifth one is capital investment purpose. So the primary purpose of investing capital in the business must be to make a profit. It mustn't be to derive interest, dividends, or capital gains. The sixth one, which is pretty important for any province, so Ontario is not an exclusion, is for a job creation. So if your business is inside the Greater Toronto area, you must create at least 2 permanent full-time jobs for Canadian citizens or permanent residents. If your business is outside of GTA, Greater Toronto Area, then you must create at least 1 permanent full-time job for a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident. And jobs must be created within 20 months of establishing or acquiring the business. And you must be paying an average wage level, so median wage level for the job position. And this position needs to be filled continuously for at least 10 months. Some additional requirements if you're purchasing an already existing business. So if you plan to purchase a business that already exists, you must make at least 1 business visit to Ontario within the 12 months of registering your express of interest. The business has to be continuously operated by the same owner for the previous 60 months. So the same owner had to be operating the same business. It can't be going from hand to hand. Ownership of the business is fully transferred to the applicant that is submitting to the stream, or the business partner that you will have if you decide to have one. You must use at least 10% of your personal investment to expand or improve the business in Ontario province. And you must keep all of the permanent full-time employees that worked in the business prior to the transfer of ownership. So they do want to make sure that if you're purchasing this business, it doesn't affect negatively to any of the Canadian citizens or the permanent residents that were employed by this business. And let's talk about some of the general business requirements so that you meet the final report, or the final submit the final report. Sorry. So the business purpose, again, the business purpose must be to make profit from active income through the sale of goods and services. You must meet or comply with all of the federal, provincial, or municipal legal requirements of the province, including Ontario's labor and employment standard laws as well. The business must be permanent, so project-based or seasonal businesses are not eligible under this stream. And the business, of course, since this is an Ontario Immigrant Nomination Program, should be in Ontario at all times. What are some of the ineligible types of business? Or if you're curious to what businesses are eligible, let's talk about the ones that are not ineligible, and we can do deduction from there. So automated car wash business is not an eligible one. Holding companies, laundromats, pawnbrokers, payday loans and related businesses, scrap metal recycling, tire recycling, a business involved in producing any sexual materials or providing these type of services is not eligible. Businesses that have been previously owned or operated by people who are from the same stream, so which is the business stream nominations, you can't be running those businesses. If you are in the Greater Toronto Area, existing franchises of Ontario is also not eligible. If you're in the Greater Toronto Area, gas stations and bed and breakfast businesses are also not allowed under this stream. let's touch base on the process. So after you submit your express of interest letter and you have received an invitation to apply by the province, you have 90 calendar days to submit your online application from the date of your invitation that you received. However, if you're not selected within a year, so 12 months, then your application is no longer considered, so you will have to submit the express of interest again. And once you start your business and establish yourself, then you will have to submit a final report between 1.5 years and 20 months after establishing the business in Ontario. And if you meet all of the business requirements that we touched upon just recently, then you will receive a letter of nomination from Ontario, which you will then apply in order to get your provincial nominations. And what are the requirements for the nomination program? So you need to have an English or French with a CLB of 4, which is honestly not very difficult to get. I don't know the IELTS equivalence, but CLB 4 is very attainable. You must be physically present in Ontario 75% of the time that you're establishing your business, and you must have an active management of the business. So these are kind of the short summaries of establishing yourself and the PNP after you establish your business. Thank you.
Okay, that was a pretty precise and concise presentation on the Ontario program, and we received a lot of inquiries for this program. But when you go into the details, you then find out that there are specific requirements, and these programs are very competitive. With the closure of the investor program on the federal level, and then the Quebec investor program was on hold, and it has been on hold for quite some time. And people who used to be interested in the investor program, now they are thinking about the entrepreneur programs. And all these provinces in Canada, Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, British Columbia, all these provinces have their entrepreneur programs. And not only that, they entertain, I'm going to add Khwaja Nouman very quickly here. He joined us. Thank you very much kindly for joining us, Raja Sir.
You're welcome.
I'm just going to continue with my usual. So all these provinces have their own programs, and most of them are actually similar. If you are a senior manager or a business owner, and if you have a very good proposal to establish the business, you have the requirement, you have a reasonable language skills, and your business plan makes sense to you, then it would be, perhaps feasible for you to consider this particular option. So that is about the entrepreneur programs. What we are going to do is we are going to quickly take a few questions before we close our today's broadcast. And let's see if we could acknowledge a few more people today, and if you could take some questions as well. We'll take a very, very short break, and when we come back, we're gonna be attending some questions online, and Khwaja Nouman would be able to help me with the assistance of Guli and Bela. Okay, welcome back. This was a very small break, right? It gave me some opportunity to browse through the hundreds of comments that we have received right now. So let's start with the first one from Imran Karim. Is asking about the Yukon province new rules. So there are no new rules. Basically, there's a program called Yukon Provincial Nominee Program. It is designed for people who are skilled. We usually get a lot of inquiries because we see that a lot of local agents and unlicensed people, they go on YouTube, encourage people for programs that are very difficult, but they present them as very, very easy. This particular program requires you to have 2 job offers from an employer based in Yukon. As a province, a good province, of course, it's very white in terms of snow and everything, but we also understand that the employment opportunities are very few, and in order for you to get 2 employment offers and then come here and work on that temporary status for a year or so, and then apply, or maybe a couple of years. I'm not too sure about that. I'll check and get back to you. But there is a minimum requirement for you to work in Yukon, and then only you would be eligible for permanent residence. So review those requirements and see if it is feasible for you to think about or not. Kashif Rahman, thank you very much for joining us again, Kashif. Good to see you. Shabana is saying salam to everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. So if you can browse through some of the, I'll need your assistance while you start here because the comments are so many. Okay, can you guess about the bank statement? Muhammad Bahar Ali is asking, can you guess about the bank statement for skilled worker visa program and also for student visa? So we don't really have to guess about anything. These things are defined in immigration law, and there are certain requirements. For skilled workers, you need to bring at least 6 months expense with you, and that those amounts are given on the IRCC website. These are updated yearly with a little bit of increase according to the size of the family. You need to have at least approximately $13,000 with you to bring in with you if you're coming alone, and you can roughly add $3,000 per family member if you're coming as a skilled worker. But if you're coming as a student, you need to be able to demonstrate that you have sufficient funds available to finance your study, your tuition, your boarding and lodging without the help of anyone else. You need to have your own money to finance it. So let's leave the guesswork out. Let's be very specific. Okay. Hamid is saying he applied in BC more than a year ago, but there is no news from BC. Yeah, so Hamid, what happens is that we are in an invitation-based regime. In past, when we used to deal with IRCC and provinces, we used to get two outcomes, a yes or a no. Obviously, there could be two outcomes, right? A yes or a no. But now we either get a yes or we get nothing. No. It's just silence. So we need to understand that the provincial nominee program, while they are very good option, but they are not guaranteed. You have to do your best, submit your application, submit your expression of interest, and then wait. Sit back and relax. If the province likes you, if you are meeting their requirements, if they prefer you, they will invite you. But if not, and the reasons could be that you are just minimum barely meeting the requirement, or they have a lot of candidates, right? They have a lot of choice to make. So if you don't get anything from them, obviously your profile is going to expire and you have to renew it and keep the faith. Ahmad Jamil, thank you very much. Faiz Ahmad, good evening. Good evening. Umar is also saying hello. Okay, yeah, Hamid is saying the same thing again. So Kashif Nadeem is saying, any opportunities for computer security engineer? Yes, there are a lot of opportunities for IT professionals. In fact, I'm just gonna show you a very quick video. I love to show videos for IT people. Okay, that was very quick. IT professionals, Canada needs you. Okay, so obviously it's the tagging his friend Adil. Thank you very much. Okay. Fakrul Islam is saying, any opportunity for master's program without IELTS? So language requirements are set by the institutes. There might be some institutes who might say that you can come study, but you need to perhaps take an additional English course in order to meet the language requirement. And unless you do that, they don't allow you to study further. So these are called conditional offer of study. If you're applying under the SDS program, though, the student direct stream, and if you are from one of those countries that are listed for consideration under SDS, then of course you need the IELTS score. But even the residents of those countries can apply for student visa under the normal student visa stream. So if you don't want to appear in IELTS, and if you happen to secure admission in a Canadian institute, you might still be able to apply for a student visa and come here and then study on conditional basis. So that could be one of the ways. Dr. Claudia is joining us again from Germany. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. Salman has kindly Tag Irtaza, thank you.
There's Farhan Maqsood as well.
Farhan Maqsood as well, yeah. Leila is saying what does she need to qualify for skilled worker category? So skilled worker category, of course, it depends on your age, educational qualification, work experience, language skills, your occupation, and you are assigned points on those bases, and then you're ranked against other applicants, and then you're invited to apply. And there's a whole procedure to it. And if you want to get in touch with my team to have a good understanding of the process, we'll be able to assist you. You can also complete our assessment form for a free assessment by our team. So we'll be able to help you with that. Jamal is saying he got parent immigration applied by his daughter. Now, my only son, 27, left in Karachi. How can my son be in Canada? He's in graduate. So basically, if he's 27, so he's an independent candidate, and he needs to qualify on his own. We need to see which category he's applying in. If he's a skilled worker, doesn't have a graduation degree, it might be difficult for him to qualify. But if he has a diploma or he's a technical person, might qualify. We need further information to see whether he meets a requirement or not. Tabish Khan is recommending us. Tabish is also highly recommended for his work in real estate industry in Ontario. He's a very honest real estate professional, and I always recommend him for any real estate needs of our clients who are coming to Canada. Tabish, thank you for joining us today. And Leila has further questions. Is there any age limit? Yeah, so Leila, it might be suitable that we have a one-on-one consultation on this, and we'll be able to help you. Kashif is saying, what about one-year diploma? We will get points. So all the educational levels have different points. Diploma, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, graduation degree, master's degree. So we'll see if there is a combination. So if you have a combination of education, maybe a high school and a diploma, we can assign, or you can assign yourself points accordingly. But education is one factor in the mix of many other factors. So we need to see where do you stand in terms of the total points. Erban is saying, what about English requirement? So English requirement, of course, English is one of the major factors that plays a very important role in the overall ranking of people. Sometimes it's a make or break deal for a lot of people. Even with 0.5 difference in band score in IELTS can make a lot of difference right there. So you need to prove your English language skills by way of the IELTS test, the general test. It is required for the skilled worker category. Okay, so let's see. Mudassar is saying, you're doing well, keep it up. Thank you. Beba. Thank you for your appreciation. Okay, so there is a recommendation from a LinkedIn user who doesn't want to display his name. It says Ryerson is worst university. You might have, maybe you might have some bad experiences with them. We'd love to hear what was your experience, because generally it's a good university, but you might have your personal experience. So do let us know, and our audience will appreciate that. Okay. So Kashif is saying, how much we will get postgraduate work permit if we finish 1 year diploma? How we will get postgraduate work permit? So once you graduate, you would then be able to apply for postgraduate work permit. It is not given to you automatically. You have to apply for it, and that is a process after you have graduated. I think Guli was able to talk about that. I don't know if you would like to add a few words on it, Guli, please.
The postgraduate work permit, I need to refresh my memory on it, to be honest.
Yeah, so I'm just going to add to it. It's basically when you have graduated, you have the choice of applying for a postgraduate work permit. And then depending on the length of the program, the postgraduate work permit is valid until that program. In fact, it was Beba's presentation. I'm sorry about that. I'm just putting you in a... Yes, Beba. So postgraduate work permit. There was a slide that you showed us that talked about the duration of the postgraduate work permit.
Yes. Right? So if your course was 8 months but less than 2 years, your postgraduate work permit is going to be same length as your study course.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. So depending on the course, so if it's a 2 years course, you might be able to get a 3 years postgraduate work permit, right? So depending on the length of the program, but 1 year work experience is required in order for you to qualify under the Canada Experience class, and you can apply for permanent residence after that. Salim is joining us from KSA. Thank you. Okay. Farishta Hassan is saying she needs help in and information for family sponsorship. We'll be able to help you. You can sponsor your spouse, your kids, your parents, your grandparents. So if these are the relatives you're talking about, we'll be able to help you. Just send us a message. We'll be happy to see whether you are qualifying as a sponsor or not. And if you are, we'll proceed. Okay. Huma is saying, will the presentation be shared with the attendees? Yes, the presentation can be shared with the attendees. Get in touch with us. We'll be able to help you with that. Huma is saying, any information on BC business program? So Huma, the BC program is actually very similar to the Ontario program with some exceptions. For example, they have a pilot program as well for business people, and their investment requirements is a bit different. They have a main program, and then they have the regional programs. So we usually ask applicants to complete our business immigration form so that we can collect information about their net worth, their business experience, or senior management experience, and their ability to invest, and their target city, if it is the main Vancouver area, or is it going to be the outside area. Okay. Mahmoud Ali said, can you please share the details on my email address to get more information? Yes, we can do that. You can also email us on info@amirsmile.com, and we'll respond to your questions. Farhan is saying, bachelor's degree in electronic engineering, age 29, working in Saudi since 2014. Can you suggest me any PNP program which suit me? Yes, we can suggest, and we do get a lot of questions about the suggestion. See, when we are representing your application, our target is always to get you through one of the available programs. And the provinces where we are authorized to represent your application will be able to process you in those provinces, because some of the provinces require additional licensing, right? So if you are not authorized in those provinces, we're going to just let you know to deal with those provinces on your own, but we can still represent you in the federal program. So as a federal, under a federal program, we are fully licensed, and we are fully licensed for many other provinces, but some provinces have that, kind of a restriction and dealing with the applicants directly. So we can ask you to deal with those provinces directly, and once you get your nomination, we can help you with your federal skilled worker program applicants. So we'll be happy to let you first know whether you qualify in one of those programs, and depending on the choice of the program, if you are also authorized to represent your application in that province, we're going to help you with that. Okay, let's see if we have a few more before we let you all go. Let's see if we can take a few more questions. Farhan is saying, please take my question. I just did, Farhan. Thank you. Okay. So BC PNP program after getting the IT is usually within a year. So the reason why I say within a year, because of the COVID-19 situation, you can't predict really. Programs that used to take 2 months are not taking 12 months. So processing time is longer. Hafiz is saying, do you offer SDS services like scoring admission and study visa? Yes, we are fully authorized by the Government of Canada to represent your student visa application. We can also assist you with admission in various universities. We have tie-ups with a number of institutes, so we can determine as to which institute would be most suitable for you according to the choice of the course and your budget and location choice. So do get in touch with us. We have a student assessment form on our website. You can complete that, and we can then determine your eligibility. So that's about the student one. Subtan is saying, I want teacher job in Canada, having 17 years of job experience. So Subtan, Nazia, it's a regulated occupation in Canada. You can't get a teacher's job directly from outside Canada. It's not possible at all. you need to be in Canada as a permanent resident and then qualify to work in a regulated occupation. So if you have intentions of working in Canada, you might want to consider immigrating and then work in Canada rather than looking for a job which you might not get in first place. And even if you get one, the employer is going to ask, do you have authorization to work as a teacher or not? And your answer would always be no. So there is no way basically to get a job as a teacher in Canada. But yes, once you are here as an immigrant, you can always qualify to work in that profession. Sayyid Jawad is saying, what is the best age to apply for immigration when you are a civil engineer with 10 years field experience? So the best age is whenever you decide to migrate, because it's a big decision. You're working, you're well settled, you want to immigrate, but you don't want to immigrate right now. So whenever you wish to, you can. But if I say that you start losing point from the age 30, you might still not find the motivation to come to Canada if you're well settled in your home country, right? There are motivations, right? But people who are not, working right now in a field that is not in demand in Canada, you might not qualify in first place. So let's see, if you are interested in coming to Canada, you might qualify and we'll be able to help you. Okay, Maru is saying, can you please tell me about immigration if I apply for my spouse immigration but did not get any? Okay, so you apply for a spousal sponsorship. You haven't received any acknowledgement for the last 6 months. So it is very normal these days. You don't get a response because of COVID-19. So don't worry. They have your application. They will get back to you, and keep the faith. And they're working on spousal sponsorships very quickly. Okay, in a student visa, if we mention, Talat is asking, any of our relatives' names, so is there any possibility of the visa rejection? Okay, I don't know how it can impact your application if you have mentioned the name of a relative, unless there is a problem with the name. I mean, of course, you have relatives in Canada who might be of assistance to you. But maybe your question is related to your ties to Canada. If you're saying that you have indicated that you have stronger ties to Canada, you can counter that by showing stronger ties to your home country, right? So I can't comment more because I don't have the real details about your case. But if that was your question, this is my answer. Okay, so there is another question. Bushra Shehram is saying, tell us about New Finland Priority Skilled Worker Program. I'm 40 years health worker. So New Finland program is actually a very good program, but I'm not very enthusiastic in terms of a lot of people getting selected, because the province itself said we are going to select only 250 to 350 people a year. And that too are divided into several occupations. So when it comes to health sector people, I think they're going to select at maximum 50 or maybe 75 people in a year. So I understand local market is mired with these local agents who are promoting, oh, come on, there is a big opportunity coming in from Newfoundland, you need to apply. I mean, yes, there is an opportunity, but it's not a very big opportunity, right? And if you are a healthcare worker, of course, you need to apply to see whether you get selected or not. It's always to remain positive, of course. You can be selected. You could be one of those 75, 80 people that Newfoundland is going to select. But if you are open to move around in Canada, you might want to improve your chances in other provinces as well, if you want to improve your chances of selection. So we have last two questions. The second last is from Asghar Raza. I've done MBBS, 1 year house job experience, now working in SIUT, 26 years of age, husband and child. So you're basically, I think, posting on behalf of your wife. Should I apply for express entry or should I give my MCC QE first? So for you to qualify for immigration, you don't need a license upfront. You can qualify to come to Canada as a doctor. Once you are here in Canada, you will not be, of course, able to practice as a doctor unless you qualify. Also, if there are any tests, any licensing requirements for international medical graduates, you need to go through them. And it is a good idea to do that before coming to Canada, but it's not a mandatory requirement. You can still apply. I'd ask Khaja Naman to provide his input on, because he deals with a lot of doctors from Asian region. What do you say, Dr. Khaja?
Yeah, you're right, Amir Shah. If someone like his profile is MBBS with 1 year of house job experience, and I would say for this kind of candidate, in fact, his spouse is very good very good in terms of age, and as he should know that MBBS is as good as a professional degree, because it's as good as equivalent to a master's degree in terms of comparing points level. And having a 1 year of experience, I would suggest them to uh, gain more experience. And yes, in terms of getting the licensing, yes, you don't need to worry about that. You can have your credential assessed. That's the initial part. You can have it done by Medical Council of Canada initially, which we can also assist you. And simultaneously, we'll be, once you gain more experience into your field, you could have a better chance of getting selection. And I see from your age, you do have a potential, and you will be a successful candidate in that terms. So go ahead in terms of gaining more experience as a first step, I guess.
Okay, that's great. I think that's there is good enough opportunities for doctors, especially young doctors, who are, because their degree is considered professional degree, so that is why they can be considered. So I think I'm just tempted to take one more question, if my team members allow me. Always tempted.
Yeah, why not? I also want we should also be, in the end, we should also be discussing about the current circumstances going on in terms of selection by the government. And we really show and at least tell the audience about, in terms of selection, especially in the month end of which is 30th of January now, and almost we have seen 4 draws so far. So we should be talking about in there, and if you allow us.
Well, we both can go on and on, but Beba and Guli perhaps would be attending to some of their own assignments today. So if they would want to leave, that is not a problem. We can take a few more questions. I'm going to take one more question in their presence, so they are with us. Bilal is saying he is an electrical engineer. He's got 13 years of experience. He wants to apply for regional Saskatchewan based on family members over there. Age is 37. So Bilal, you can get in touch with the Saskatchewan immigration authorities. It is a province. It's a very good province. You go through their requirements, familiarize yourself with the requirements. If you get in touch with us, we can create your express entry profile for this purpose. If you are applying under the occupation in demand, you don't need an express entry profile. You can deal with the province directly. And once you have your nomination from the province, get in touch with us, and we'll be able to help you with your federal application. Okay. All right. Yes. So I think that's about it. We'll go on to our next session of the current scenario, and when we come back, we'll take a few more questions. So stay with us. Okay. Yeah. So I just wanted to reconfirm with Beba and Guli, if they want to take leave, that's fine. And me and Khwaja Saab would take a few more questions and stay back for 3 more hours.
I'll stay. This session is actually very good in order to refresh and learn a lot of stuff from you guys. So I'm more than happy to stay.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Okay. That's the spirit. That's the spirit. Okay. So let's take a few more questions, because that's why we are here, of course, to answer some questions people are sending to us. Mr. Tarani is saying he is a nurse by profession with 5 years experience and recently completed his master's in health policy management. Okay, so it's on behalf of the wife. Husband is a video editor, and son is 6 months, and they're planning to apply for Canada. So can you please guide Okay, so you need to provide us further details. You can complete our assessment form on our website, and we'll make an assessment within 2 business days. It's a free assessment. We let you know whether you qualify or not. And it's a young family, and that is the kind of a family Canada is looking for to come here, succeed, and thrive. And it appears that you do have good language skills as well. So provide us further details by completing our assessment form. It's on our website, www.amirismail.com, and we'll be able to deal with you. Mujir is saying, may not be related, but do you process work permit? But it is related. we do process work permit, but what we don't do is we don't arrange jobs. So if your question is actually about jobs, answer is no, we don't arrange jobs. You need to deal with a licensed recruiter in Canada. And let me remind you all that you are not supposed to pay, or they are not supposed to charge you anything. Not your immigration consultant, not your recruitment consultant, not anyone. I mean, no one can charge you money for arranging a job. But if you do have a job, then you'll be applying for a work permit on the basis of that job, and we can represent that application. So there are 2 steps involved, right? Job offer, and then that job offer might require an LMIA, the Labor Market Impact Assessment. We can also process that, but we would not arrange jobs. Okay, so Fatma is saying, please answer which province is in demand for motor mechanic. Qualification 3 years, experience is from Australia. So if you provide us further details, we'll be able to conduct a research and perhaps arrange a consultation as well to see which province you would be able to qualify in. Okay. Barham Mustra is joining us from YouTube, is saying, tell me about May intake. Your question is perhaps about the May intake for admissions. So we need to check it out, which universities or colleges are offering May intake. And we need to see whether you'll be able to travel as well or not. If your institute is listed in it's complying with the COVID-19 readiness plan, you might be able to travel to Canada. But you also need to take into account the new travel restrictions the Canadian government has brought in. So no one is exempted from it. So you might want to continue online, or you can figure that out. But we can of course help you in finding a program that may have a May intake available. Okay. Fatma is saying, do we need LMIA from Canada province? A Canadian province, if you're applying under a Canadian provincial program for motor mechanic. So the way the PNP programs work, if the program or the province require you to have a job offer from an employer based in that province, there is no requirement of LMIA in that case. It is a employer backed up application that you'll be filing. But if you are applying for a work permit, federal work permit, you need an LMIA in most of the cases, right? And your employer has to submit an LMIA application, confirming and convincing the Labor Department here that they have done their best to find a suitable candidate. And if they did their best and they still couldn't find, so you should be allowed to join the company. So that is usually a very difficult task, but there are some professions, of course, where there's a lot of scarcity for professionals. So, of course, it can be considered. Okay. Mr. Thrani is saying, surely look into it. Yes, we are looking forward to assisting you. Owner-operator program. So what are the minimum eligibility requirements? So in terms of owner-operator, there is no set guidelines in terms of investment. You should be able to convince the processing officer that you are going to make significant contribution. So what is significant? Of course, it depends on the kind of project you are going to establish, and the strength of your business plan, your own ability to manage the business will matter. So there is no minimum requirements, but yes, they will not consider if the proposal is not logical, doesn't make any logical sense, that it could be considered for a significant contribution. Okay. Abdul Saban is saying, I want to work in pharmaceutical company in quality control, eligibility criteria. So first of all, if you want to work in a pharmaceutical company in Canada, I would recommend think about immigrating to Canada and then start applying. Because believe you me, there are thousands of people who come to Canada as immigrants and they struggle to find a job. So if you're thinking that you're going to get a job while sitting outside Canada and then you will just join that company, that it's not that simple. So in most of the cases, the solution is to migrate and then look for work. And even when you are here, as I said before, you might have to work really hard to find the employment here in Canada because the standards are different, the educational requirements, the licensing requirements, and of course there are other factors that also come into play, like you need to perhaps improve your language skills, your soft skills. So all these things take time. Unlike Middle East, for example, where there is a requirement of foreign workers, locals don't work, so they want people from outside and they would offer jobs. Here in Canada, the legal requirement for the employer is to hire local people first. And if they want to hire someone from overseas, they need to have good enough reason and need to convince the labor department by way of efforts that I have placed an ad, I have interviewed these many people, I can justify I couldn't find a single person in whole wide Canada. Now I want this person. What do you say? And they can still say no, right? So you need to look at it from that point of view. Farooq Abdullah is saying he's 36 years of age and has 10 years of experience in NOC 2114. Am I eligible to apply? So when it comes to occupations for express entry, there is no occupation list. You can be working in any occupation as long as it is under NOC O, A, and B. But yes, if you created your express entry profile and you want to explore the provincial options, there might be provinces that may have NOC 2114 as their priority occupation in demand list, and you might qualify in that province as well. But in terms of the express entry federal skilled worker program, there is no such requirement. But you need to also have work experience that you have, language skills, and there might be other factors that play in terms of you getting to a reasonable score for selection. Okay, so Asghar, if we get immigration and don't get job over there, so do we get any financial assistance from Canadian government or any help in finding job? Thank you. Okay, so when you come to Canada, you are expected to bring at least 6 months expense with you. That is, these are called settlement funds, and these are according to the size of the family. So if you're, for example, if you're coming alone, you need to bring $13,000 approximately. So if you're bringing $13,000, you need to utilize that money, right? While you're looking for a job. That money is going to be helpful for you to settle down and look for a job. But if you run out of that money and you still haven't found the job, you then can access the welfare system here in Canada. Canadian government doesn't want people to be on welfare, of course. They want people to work. So they would encourage you to work. They will help you in finding job. And they have these settlement service providers. They have their own job banks. They do help you in finding the job. But if you still fail to find a job, there are problems. That it's a welfare state. You will be taken care of, at least in terms of, even accommodation, in terms of your day-to-day expenses. I was told by someone that they were on welfare, and these welfare people, they were in fact giving them money for transportation in order to go for job interviews. They were giving money for grooming, like, shaving and haircutting and everything, because they want you to be off the welfare as soon as possible. They want you to do your best to be off the welfare. But yes, there exists a system where people can access that help if they want to. It is actually hand to mouth. No one wants to be on welfare. You're better off working because you make more money. But yes, if you are unable to find a job, then you can help. Mansoor is saying, are you providing services and guidance for owner-operator? Yes, we do provide services for owner-operator program. It is a bit of a complicated program, though, because you are putting forward arguments about the viability of your proposal, your ability to establish the business, your and the arguments in favor of this project being a good project in terms of making significant contribution to the Canadian labor market. So we will be able to help you in that. No problem. Shabs Akbar is saying 9 years experience as an engineer in Saudi Arabia, 35 years of age, no IELTS yet, want to immigrate to Canada with family, any chance? So we don't talk about chances, right? In Canadian immigration, we have set criteria, right? So, and the criteria is based on your own qualification. Your consultant can help you in avoiding mistakes, strengthening your profile legally by, of course, highlighting your skills, your job description. Your consultant cannot increase your chances from the point of view of you not qualifying, but you still qualify because you're being represented by Amir Ismail. It won't happen. But in terms of qualification, there are minimum criteria, and then there are criteria or going point score in express entry. You might be qualifying, but you may not still be selected because your ranking score is not up to what is currently going on. So we can determine whether your score is good enough. If it is not, where can you get additional points, be it from provincial nominee programs. Usually you can get 600 points. So we can determine whether you qualify in one of the programs or not, and just complete our assessment form for that purpose. And our team is going to be able to help you. And so they're saying, thanks, you're welcome. So I think that's about it. We have all the questions answered. I don't know, Khwaja Sahab, if you can see any questions that I might have missed. Otherwise, we'll be able to respond later on.
Yeah, almost all covered.
All covered? Yes.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your determination. I understand you were on the road and then you joined from the road. Willie is joining us from Ottawa all the way, and Beba is with us in Toronto. And you all sit tight together for 1.5 hours. So this is simply great. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We usually go online on every Saturday at 11 a.m. EST. Make sure that you join us for updates, and we also take your questions, live questions. And we look forward to seeing you next Saturday. We might have a change in the timing because I've seen that a lot of people have indicated that it's very late at their end sometimes. So we'll announce about the change in timing soon. And thank you very much again for joining us. Okay, everyone, take care.
Thank you, Amir Sahab.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.